And so we are all Munch family here this morning, and just, again, thank you for being here. All right. As a military brat growing up, moving all over the place, one of the things that I became kind of skilled at was the need to make quick connections. Because, look, we're only going to be here for about 2 years, and I don't really have a whole lot of time to build this, incredibly long lifespan of a relationship. I have 2 years to become best friends with you. And so we need to do this rather very quickly. And so developing essential connections in a community very early on in my life became essential. Because I also saw a lot of my friends who were also military brats who decided not to develop essential connections. And over time, you just kind of saw them disappear into the void. Many of them struggled with either substance abuse issues. Some of them struggled with emotional, psychological issues. It shows to me, looking back on my time growing up, just how vital essential connections are. Aside from just me being a military brat, I know that when my daughter was born, we went to like birthing classes, parenting classes. Anybody here ever go to those classes? Yeah. Okay. I had no idea what those classes were going to be about, but my wife said, "Look, you're going." So I got in there, and then they explained something where they said, "Okay, now when your child is born, you need to take your shirt off, and you need to place her on your chest, make skin-to-skin contact." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we do that, and so I raise my hand. I'm like, "Why do we need to do this?" Because just kind of, don't necessarily, I get weirded out around hospitals anyway. I don't know why my blood pressure just goes up. It's just some of you, maybe you love going to hospitals. For me, it's just weird. But anyway, so they're like, "No, you're developing an essential connection with your daughter. You're bonding. You're creating that skin-to-skin contact moment." And even the practitioner that we were with who was sharing the class, she goes, "And there's even research to believe that she's going to recognize your heartbeat. And also your voice and your breathing. That is all part of it. It's an introduction. It's an essential connection." And in like-minded, I hope today that you are here and that you have essential connections in your life. The whole theme of this conference is the great connection, finding the sweet spot of ministry. I hope that you have had that just essential contact being a part of the local church, and you've developed that type of a relationship. I want to share with you 3 essential connections that I believe that you need to have this morning. That for many of you, if you've been saved a long time, it's probably not going to be anything new to you, but that's okay. Because growing up in a military family, my dad always inspected my work. So he would say, "Okay, Chris, it's time. We're gonna vacuum out the car." And so I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go get a vacuum." Go get a vacuum, and I just turned it on and left the hose in the car. And then it was done, and I'm like, "Okay, Dad, vacuum the car. Woo, we're good." And he's like, "Son, come here. Stand right here. You see all the French fries and all the wrappers in the van? See all the M&Ms and gummy bears? And do you see it, Chris?" And I'm like, "Yeah, don't look too bad." He goes, No. Let me remind you." And so I had to stand there while my dad instructed me again on how to vacuum the van. And I remember just standing there going, "Really? Come on. We've been through this already. It's not that I don't know how to vacuum the van. I just don't want to." And the truth is that for some of us, in terms of church, and in terms of the things that we have been entrusted with, the truth that we've been entrusted with, when we are taken back to some of the basic steps, you might be feeling that way maybe this morning a little bit, where it's like, "Really? You brought this guy all the way from Chicago to remind us about some basic stuff? I came to the conference to learn the nuclear fission of Awana, the advanced stuff." But I think it's in the basic stuff that makes all the difference in what we're going to do with the advanced things. And so I want to take you to, first of all, that I believe that you and I were created for the ultimate connection. And so if you got your Bibles, you can go ahead and turn open to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. These are going to be familiar verses today. But Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, you and I, we were created for an ultimate connection. One ultimate connection. This is how we were made. You were made to have a connection with God. That ultimate, perfect connection. And I love this, how it gets kicked off in the Bible here in Genesis. It says, and then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. But I love that first part there, that first line. It says, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. My imagination oftentimes goes off into different spaces, like, what if we weren't made in his likeness? That's a key development design decision. And it's part of what I get to do at Awana, because I'm making develop design decisions mostly all day long. The decisions that you make early on have ramifications later on down the road. The different details and different decisions that you make in your life have ramifications deep down on the road, later on down the road. And here in the scriptures, we see that God is saying straight from the beginning, let's make man in our image, after our likeness. Because I believe he said, I'm not making man to be disconnected from who I am. The original design, before it was wrecked by sin, is that you and I were created for that ultimate connection. That we are not just an aspect of God's creation, but we are made in his image, in his likeness. His fingerprints are all over us. And I believe that in a world that is trying to redefine that, it's important for us to just establish and recognize the truth of that this morning. That you were made for an ultimate connection. That you were made in the image of God. But it's not just a design issue, it's also a substance issue. It's what are you going to do with that? So another scripture passage I just want to point you to is John chapter 15, verse 5, in which Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. And I believe that as Jesus is sharing right here, what he's saying is that life apart from me simply doesn't work. Going back to originally in the garden, the lie is that life can be better without God. You know, you don't need him around. And in fact, I believe to maybe even put it maybe a little bit too simply or plainly, that all that Satan did was tell Adam and Eve that, isn't God annoying? I mean, he's everywhere. Always telling you what to do. He's always getting in your business. He's just there all the time. I mean, it must be exhausting worshiping God. Isn't he just so annoying? Isn't it interesting that our kids sometimes treat us that way? Mom and Dad, do you have to be here? Like, my first grader is already like, Dad, look, you don't need to walk me to line when we line up for school. Like, seriously, just keep the car going. Just let me, I will jump out. I got a backpack with like a little jump line on it, and I'll do the tuck and roll, and we will be good. You know? But I don't because I have an annoying love toward my daughter. And I'm gonna walk over her to her in line. I'm gonna hang out. I'm gonna ask her friends embarrassing questions. Because I love her, because I want to be with her. But isn't it interesting that in the wrecked part of human nature, we find God to be very annoying?